Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. This is where we watch old 16mm films from the AV Geeks collection and also from other collections where we've digitized their materials. We've got two films for you today, and I want you to kind of guess, based on the title, what the films are about. The first one we're going to watch is... oh boy, so many windows open, is Orchard to Mr. Jordan. Then the second film is The Germ. So in the comments, I want you to guess and see if you know what those two films are about. And don't look it up, just guess. The Germ and Orchard to Mr. Jordan. But in the meantime, I wanted to mention that we are in the midst of the Toe Tapping Tournament 2022. And we just did round 3, and we have these 8 songs or jingles that we're competing, and we want you to vote on. So if you look on YouTube and you watch Monday's show, which was April 25th, at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show, we show the songs, and you can vote on them. And email me at skip@avgeeks.com, and do it by Sunday, because Monday is when we're going to announce the final 4. So just as a recap, it's I Am Me and I Want to Be versus Ducks, Choosing What to Make, Education Today, Never Say You Can't Until You Try versus World of Work, and then AC Delco 1973 Spring Campaign versus Garbage in Your Gut. There have been some, based on votes, there's definitely some winners, and there's some that are just like back and forth. Every single vote, it's fascinating, even now. Like one has not pulled away. So, so definitely vote with that. Okay, so what did you write in your answers? Orchard to Mr. Jordan. What is that film about? The Germ. What is that film about? Did you guess steel? Why, yes it is. It's steel. Both films are about steel and different aspects of the steel manufacturing process. The first one is more about what you can do with steel and kind of has this weird narrative to it about artist, sculptor. It's kind of crazy. So let's go ahead and watch that. Orchard to Mr. Jordan. Enjoy.
United States Steel, USS, the industrial family that serves the nation, presents An Orchid to Mr. Jordan.
This is the 7th floor. Watch your step, please. Well, hello. You're right on time. Mr. Jordan is waiting for you. Come in, please. Your visitor has arrived, Mr. Jordan.
Well, come in, come in. Been looking forward to this all day. Won't you sit down, make yourself comfortable?
Oh, Mr. Jordan, this package just came for you by messenger.
Well, who's it from?
I don't know. It merely has your name.
Open it, please, Mary. You'll excuse me a moment, won't you? Uh-huh. Oh, very, very nice. USS stainless, too.
there's a card, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. Listen to this. An orchid to you, Bob. This is my way of admitting that you were right. Jerry.
Isn't that Mr. Blair, the jewelry manufacturer?
Yeah, that's Jerry Blair.
He certainly must like the home you helped him plan.
It goes a lot deeper than that. You can see that this orchid is made of stainless steel. Well, when Jerry Blair asked me to give him some advice on the home he was planning, stainless steel was the one thing on which we didn't see eye to eye.
Apparently you do now.
Oh, but I had to go all out to convince him. I don't believe I ever told you about that. Well, I called on the Blairs one evening after their plans were on paper.
Looks great, Bob, except for one thing.
What's that, Jerry?
You've advised the use of a lot of stainless steel all over the house. Fixtures, trim, hardware, downspouts, window sash, storm windows, sinks, everything. And a whole stainless kitchen.
That's right, Jerry.
Oh, I think a stainless kitchen would be wonderful.
Well, I'll need a lot of convincing we should go to the extra expense for stainless steel.
It's not an extra expense, Jerry. It's a little extra investment that really pays off.
That's a line of talk that goes with any product. You'll have to do better than that, Bob.
All right. We'll start at the beginning. You see, I have to find out the best and the worst of any product that I recommend. First, stainless steel does its special jobs and does them well. It's because something special goes into its making. Watchful care, the quality that's given to it by trained men who make steel. You know, Jerry, I've seen USS stainless steel being made in electric furnaces under mighty close controls. It's interesting to see chromium and usually nickel, together with small amounts of other metals being added. Stainless is versatile because its alloy content is especially controlled to meet the individual requirements of many applications. It's fascinating to watch molten stainless being poured into ingot molds. You'd be impressed with the care they use in all these manufacturing operations. For instance, in the rolling and other operations, they take more time than similar operations on other steels. And they're always testing and inspecting. But there's no doubt that stainless is well worth all the extra time and effort. Yes, there's special handling all along the line, and it's easy to understand why this steel initially costs more than ordinary steel. I know you're concerned with the workability of metals, Jerry, so I'm sure you'd be interested to know how well stainless fabricates. For instance, saucepans such as Ellen will probably use in her kitchen are blanked and then drawn in a single operation from a sheet of stainless. Then the rim is spun, just as on ordinary steel. If it can be made of steel, it can be made better with stainless. USS stainless, I like to say. Then comes polishing. To a satin finish or to a mirror-like brightness. A final touch to satisfy every woman's inherent desire for beautiful as well as practical cooking utensils. And welding stainless is a simple operation using standard shop equipment on light gauge sheets or on heavy plates. Machining, too, is simple. It can be done with no more concern than attends other operations on stainless. Drop hammering presents no problem. Stainless is tough, so you can often use thinner stock and save weight without sacrificing strength. It gives extra long service, usually offsetting the slight initial extra cost of this quality metal. And then there's stamping. Ellen, did you know that tableware is stamped from stainless steel? It is as beautiful as it is practical. And speaking of practicability, I've seen stainless in use where it's put to infinitely greater test than it ever will be in any home. like in meat packing houses where meat comes in frequent contact with metal. Stainless steel cannot contaminate the meat that touches it. Constant contact with meat juices will not affect stainless because its smooth, dense surface will harbor neither germs nor bacteria. Its ability to stay clean has a meaning for not one home or family, but for practically every family across the length and breadth of the land. I remember speaking to the foreman in a sausage-making department. I said, "I'll bet it's easy to keep that equipment clean."
And you can say that again, brother. Watch this. No matter how stained or greasy it gets, just a couple of wipes and presto, it's bright again. Yes, sir, this stainless is slick stuff.
The man was right. Stainless is slick stuff. Nothing equals it in the great commercial kitchens of the food processing industry. Take tomato juice, for example. Ellen knows that's highly acid, but it cannot contaminate stainless, so no metallic flavor can be imparted to the juice. That goes for the canning industry, too. The taste of the tree-ripened fruit is unmarred by stainless. Yes, stainless steel is in there day in and day out, doing a perfect job for the packer and the consumer alike. And the next time you drink a prepared citrus fruit juice, Jerry, just remember that stainless steel was on the job. From the extractors made of stainless steel, the juice runs through transfer lines made of stainless steel pipe. These lines convey the juice to holding tanks, evaporators, and pasteurizers, also made entirely of this glistening clean metal. Throughout the whole process, from the extractors to the canning machines, the juice comes in contact with stainless steel only. The beverage industry uses stainless drums to ship flavored syrup to bottlers all over the country. The bulk product, made in stainless equipment, reaches its destination with quality and flavor ensured. Then right on through the bottling plants, this modern miracle metal continues to make possible the high standards of sanitation that are so essential to uniform quality and taste. Oh, I mustn't forget the dairy industry, because it was actually one of the first to adopt stainless steel. At the very beginning of the milk production line, the cups of the mechanical milking machines are sheathed with this steel. Milk receptacles, large and small, are also made from it. The huge tanks used to transport raw milk to dairy plants are made of this clean, impervious metal. Cream mixing machinery is made of stainless. Don't forget that milk and milk products are highly susceptible to contamination and deterioration. Stainless steel affords protection in making cottage cheese. From mixer to filling machines, it is used wherever cheese comes in contact with equipment. The eye-catching beauty of the milk equipment is permanent, and its lustrous surface is permanent too, inside and out. By the look of it, you know it's easy to keep bright and clean. I asked this question of one of the men at the dairy farm. Say, do you have any trouble keeping those big containers clean?
Clean, did you say?
Yes. Any trouble?
Just look at that. Let me tell you, pails, containers, lines, everything are scoured regularly with high-pressure steam and caustic cleaning solutions. They all come out like new. Nothing we use, even caustic, can hurt this metal. For my money, it's the world's cleanest.
Those were exactly the words he used. For my money, it's the world's cleanest. When you come to think of it, the protecting shadow of stainless steel extends over the greater part of our land, over farm and range and orchard, waiting to protect the endless flow of their products. And the results of the service it performs are on our counters, on the shelves of our neighborhood stores, in our pantries, and on our breakfast tables as we start each day. But you can look even deeper, Jerry, for the services stainless steel performs in our everyday lives. For instance, purity and cleanliness of product are of utmost importance in the cosmetic industry, right down to the packaging rooms. because millions of women daily take time out for beauty. Milady's boudoir mirror reflects beautiful colors made possible by the use of stainless steel in the textile industry. In the bleaching, dyeing, and printing of quality fabrics, stainless equipment is used because it resists corrosion and stubborn dyes. Its ease of cleaning saves time and prevents carryover or bleeding, or in other words, prevents off colors in the finished product. But making beautiful things is not always the job assigned stainless. It resists extreme heat and pressure. It has high resistance to corrosive conditions. Therefore, at oil refineries, we find it in heating furnaces, heat exchangers, and bubble towers. There, crude oil is forced at high pressure through coils of stainless steel pipes under terrific heat on the way to becoming the oil and the gasoline which make our automobiles run.
Terrific heat, did you say? Take a look. This furnace operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can see why we need the best metal we can get to stand up under the rugged conditions inside the furnace. Stainless steel is what does it.
Yes, it sure does its job, and well. I've seen it at work in the never-ending fight for health, in the pharmaceutical industry, where it is invaluable in the making of all important drugs such as penicillin, streptomycin, sulfadiazine, and in the operating room, where the battle is often for life itself. Practically all furnishings, including the operating table, are made of this wonderful metal. And the equipment necessary for correct surgical practice is also made of it. More important, the very instruments used by the surgeon are made of stainless steel. It is a definite aid in maintaining asepsis. Even sick room articles made of stainless are sterilized in all stainless units. Such equipment stands up almost indefinitely under continuous use and repeated sterilization. Whether it be in the kitchen, dishwashing room, service pantry, or laundry, modern hospitals find stainless steel completely dependable. In fact, I had occasion to ask one of the doctors about metals, and he said,
"It's odd that you should ask me that. I've thought about it often. If I were to prescribe the ideal metal for hospital use, it would be stainless steel."
Yes, Jerry, it really is the ideal metal. Here's another example. Architectural applications. Because stainless resists corrosion so well, we find it in use in many modern buildings. Its permanent beauty lends a tone of richness to decorative exterior and interior treatments. Its high strength permits light, graceful applications of infinite variations in design. Yes, in the hands of the ingenious designer, stainless steel has unlimited possibilities. Like the statue of Sun Yat-sen, the Chinese patriot whose memory is perpetuated in this ever-shining metal. And don't forget, Jerry, in architectural applications, stainless is far more than a means of enhancing beauty. It saves weight, increases strength, resists corrosion and abrasion. It increases structural efficiency and adds to safety and utility values. And amateur photographers have learned that stainless is almost a necessity in home film processing equipment, just as it is in developing and printing rooms of large still and motion picture laboratories. Its smooth surface will not scratch the delicate film. It will not stain or contaminate chemical baths, and constant humidity of large laboratories will not corrode it. Now let's look at another application. It's not hard to understand that in hotel and restaurant kitchens, or wherever food is handled, stainless steel is extremely desirable because of its ease of cleaning and its durability. There are sound economic reasons behind the ever-increasing use of this miracle metal. More and more USS Stainless is coming into use in dairy product stores, bars, meat stores, and others catering to retail trade. Its beauty and cleanliness impart charm and distinction to equipment and decorations. It invites patrons and holds them. The simple richness of stainless, framing the vivid colors of nature in bloom, lends added beauty and utility too, because stainless will not corrode. Jerry, we can go on and find stainless doing an outstanding job almost everywhere at any time. Take transportation for another instance. You'll probably find plenty of stainless steel on the car you're driving. Those who make our automobiles discovered that it is permanently beautiful and practical for hubcaps, hardware, body trim, grills, instrument panels, window beading, windshield wipers, and other accessories. And we who drive the cars find it a lot easier to keep bright and clean. And in the railroad industry, stainless steel's great strength permits the use of lighter equipment. Lighter trains reduce operating costs. The modern streamliner with its stainless equipment, trim, and decorations is easy to maintain. It is virtually everlasting and will never need refinishing. The same qualities that make stainless attractive and desirable, almost a necessity in other modes of transportation, are equally important to bus and truck operators. Lightweight reduces operating costs without sacrificing strength. Corrosion resistance reduces maintenance costs. And stainless steel cannot contaminate the product it carries, whether it is bulk sugar, syrup, milk, or any other perishable product. And then there's the aircraft industry. Big jet airplane engines are largely stainless from one end to the other. The reason is, no other metal stands up better in handling their highly corrosive exhaust gases. You know, in the jet-propelled airplane, every property of stainless steel is put to the severest tests. Lightweight, strength, abrasion resistance, corrosion resistance, and heat resistance are vitally important. Its tough, smooth surface will outlast all comparable metals. Stainless is used in control cables because its special properties meet exacting requirements. In large commercial planes, stainless is used in exhaust systems. It retains strength needed for high-pressure jobs up to 1,650 degrees Fahrenheit. Without stainless steel, turbo superchargers, so essential to our superfortresses and similar planes, might never have been perfected. In fact, stainless steel means so much in our everyday lives that I just hate to think what we'd do without it.
Well, Jerry, does the story of a valuable metal make an impression?
You covered a lot of territory, Bob.
I can sure understand why you're so sold on stainless steel.
Why not, with all its plus qualities? Let's get back to you. Are you sold?
Who wouldn't be after all that?
Then I will have my stainless kitchen.
Ellen, your stainless range goes here. Your refrigerator there. And here will be your sink and work counters.
Well, how do you like it? Oh, it's wonderful. 3 months ago, Ruth, that clever husband of yours pointed out this very spot on a set of plans. And now I'm preparing my first real dinner. And what a pleasure in a new kitchen like this.
What do you think of stainless steel in the kitchen, Jerry?
Never mind what he thinks, Bob. I think it's wonderful, and it's my workroom.
Before long, I'm going to show you what I've decided to do with stainless steel.
Confidentially, he brags about this kitchen to everyone, as though it was his own idea. I guess I could do a little talking about it myself, though. For instance, Ruth, stainless steel countertops will never corrode. Caustic solutions won't affect them. They just won't stain. See how those berry stains disappear?
You talk just like Bob.
You haven't heard anything yet. Hot pots can't mar the beauty of stainless. Not a mark.
You mean it resists abrasion?
That's right. Stainless resists abrasion.
May I? Oh, what beautiful stainless tableware.
Ruth, look at this. My stainless automatic dishwasher. Jerry really appreciates this. Everything's complete, even a garbage disposal unit. And that's not all. First, I wanted a refrigerator with steel shelves and evaporator. But when I saw this one, all stainless, and such a wonderful size, I just couldn't resist it. The surfaces are permanent inside and out. They can't corrode. It's no work at all to keep them clean. Preparing a meal in a kitchen like this is just a sheer delight. Oh, but of course you know all about that, Ruth. You must have a stainless steel kitchen.
No, I haven't. But I think it's a wonderful idea, Ellen. And I'm going to have a stainless kitchen.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Jordan is having the kitchen done over completely in stainless steel. She says if I can have it in my office, she can have it in her kitchen.
You did a very good job of selling stainless, Mr. Jordan.
Yes, an all-inclusive job, I'd say. Oh, I think I remarked that Jerry Blair was going to show me what he'd do with stainless steel. This is what he meant. Stainless steel has taken its place in his costume jewelry business. Yeah, I think Jerry was really sold. But when you think of all the advantages inherent in stainless, its consistent high quality, its fine finish, its unvarying fabricating qualities, you can't help being sold. And it's evident that the technicians who make this steel, from laboratory and research worker to the finishing operator, are trained to think well into the future. They have a right to say, in today's plans for tomorrow, the accent is on USS stainless. And look for the USS label when you buy products of steel. Now, isn't that just like me? Here I am, rambling on in my enthusiasm, talking way over your head. Will you forgive me?
Oh, that's all right, Grandpa. Your story was very good. But when do I get that big ice cream cone you promised me?
Right now, before we meet your grandma. What flavor is it going to be?
Chocolate, I guess. I'll bet the man dips my cone with a USS stainless dipper.
Yeah, so that was a meandering path to get to some beautiful foundry footage and then making steel. But lots of beautiful product shots there. Oh my gosh, the silverware shots, all that is really great. So, The Germ. This one is more of a cautionary tale for steel workers, but workers in general, about being careless and how that translates to poor customer satisfaction and how ultimately it will destroy your company. So here's The Germ. Enjoy.
was a mighty man, make no mistake about that. Big, strapping, healthy, a mountain of a man. A real credit to the community, folks always said. A good guy to have around. A man of steel, through and through. On the day that tiny little germ got in, you'd never know it to look at Joe. There was too much Joe for a germ to show. At first. The Little Dandy Iron Works, as companies go, was just like Joe. Big, strapping, a mountain of a company. A real credit to the community, folks always said. Good company to have around. A company of steel, through and through. The salesmen for the Little Dandy Iron Works were out and around, busy getting orders for steel. The men in the shipping department were busy shipping steel. And all over the works, other people were busy at their jobs. Each of us has his job to do, they said, and that's that. And that's what they were doing. And the men around the open hearths were busy, making as much steel as possible per furnace per day. Busy? That isn't the half of it. On the day that tiny little germ of a wrong idea got in, you'd never know it to look at the company. There was too much company for a germ to show. At first. But germs have a way of multiplying and spreading around and sneaking here and there and keeping folks from finding them out until they've got themselves dug in. One of the most particular jobs anyone can have is making steel. It's practically impossible. It's like juggling eggs on a tightrope. Just look what they have to do. They have to heat that stuff up to about 3,000 degrees in a furnace which will stand only a little more than 3,000 degrees and only for a while at that. And what they've got to heat it with doesn't make it much hotter than the steel has to be, although it almost makes it hotter than the furnace can stand. And they can't even use the heat the best way. What they have to do is blow it across the top. Of course, the scrap does melt and the molten pig iron is added. Then the race begins. Every minute the charge is boiling, the carbon is going down and the temperature is going up. Nobody knows until the stuff is all melted how much carbon has to come out or just how fast the temperature will go up this time. But while they're watching one go down and the other go up, they also have to watch the slag and analyze it and watch the steel and analyze it and add things here and there. Meanwhile, they have to do a tricky plumbing job on a hot ladle, setting in a new nozzle and stopper and getting them straight and true, because even a perfect heat can be loused up by the bad pouring that results from a ladle with a runny nose. And all the time the temperature in the furnace is going up, and just as the carbon gets down to, but not below where it should be, the temperature has to be what it should be, and the slag has to be what it should be, and the steel ought to be what it should be. And then they tap. And all that has to happen before the heat breaks out the bottom or the roof caves in. And then in the ladle, they have to keep adding things to control the analysis. The temperature of the steel starts to go down, but before it gets too cold, but not while it's too hot, they have to get all the ingots poured in clean, warm, properly seated molds to the right level, not too high and not too low. And then sometimes some more things have to be added to control oxygen in the ingot, and if they have to cap it, they have to do that on time. And they have to know that the steel is going to rise up and hit it, not too late, but not too soon either. And then they have to let some ingots cool before they move them, and let others cool during delivery to the stripper. But none of them too cool, because they have to heat them up again evenly all the way through. Not too much and not too little, so that they can be properly slabbed or bloomed. They have their troubles too. In fact, if there's any job any trickier than making steel from melting it all the way to packing it for shipment, you can have it. Not that anyone objected at the Little Dandy. They were proud of the way they could make steel, and well, they might be. They made it by the millions of tons. That's what our job is, they said. Making steel, and that's that. Only that wasn't that. That was the germ of the wrong idea that got into the Little Dandy. Better take care of that, said Joe's old lady the day he sneezed. I'm a working man, got no time for pampering myself. One sneeze don't make pneumonia, says Joe. One Wednesday, along about midnight, the germ that had gotten into the Little Dandy got in a good lick. It happened like this. The charge that was bubbling away in old number 14's innards had just about come up to snuff, but not quite. Still, that whistle was just around the corner, and the boys needed this one on the record to prove that they could make steel, and making steel was their job. So Steve stood there looking first at his watch, and then at the whiz kid off to one side, and then at the clock again, and then at the figures. And then finally he decided to walk over to Lou, who was going over his records, and said, looks pretty close to midnight, about 28:50 to me. That isn't what the thermocouples say, said Lou. Well, I've been making steel a good many years, and I can tell a whistle heat, I can tell a heat that's ready to tap. Besides that, look at the carbon. My job's making steel, not reading instruments. So they tapped the heat, and the germ got in its work for the day. Actually, the heat was a little bit cool. That's the only way to account for the skull that showed up in the ladle. They had plenty of trouble with the pouring, but they figured on having enough luck in the conditioning yard to pull them through. Then the ingots, all soaked and ready, were swung over to the billet mill. And away they went. The conditioning yard did so they tapped the heat, and the germ got in its work for the day. Actually, the heat was a little bit cool. That's the only way to account for the skull that showed up in the ladle. They had plenty of trouble with the pouring, but they figured on having enough luck in the conditioning yard to pull them through. Then the ingots, all soaked and ready, were swung over to the billet mill. And away they went. The conditioning yard did correct all the external faults they saw, so nobody knew about the large, ugly inclusions that had formed during the pour and were still in the billets. The etch tests and micros weren't too good. Each time there was quite a conference about those inclusions. They cut back and tried again and cut back some more. It was sort of borderline. Well, they said, our business is making steel. Look at the calendar. This steel, ain't it? Ship it. That was the germ at work. It looked all right when the customer got it, so he machined it into gears and put a good many dollars worth of time and effort into it, banking pretty heavily on the idea that the Little Dandy knew its business. And then it was magnafluxed. Any defect near the surface of a piece of steel, you know, like an inclusion, will stick out like a worm on an ear of corn when you magnaflux it, like this. Uh-oh. When the steel all came rolling back to the ironworks in a rusty heap, the company felt a little twinge. Actually, they were in the habit of tapping mighty good steel at the Little Dandy. They liked to tap good steel, and 90% of the time, that's what they tapped. But sometimes what would happen afterwards made it a little discouraging to have tried so hard. Like the day the stopper was poorly set. The heat had been perfect, but a leaky stopper, like the one they had after number 4 ingot, leads to scabs, and that's just what happened this time. The scabs, where the steel stream hit the side of the mold and chilled, were bad enough. The conditioning yard did what it could. They rolled the stuff on the hot strip mill mighty carefully. And there's also the scale which forms on hot steel. It has to be taken off, too. In a sheet mill, this is done on the continuous pickler. But if the steel gets rough treatment there, is dragged over dead rolls or rough guides, or is piled too deep in the looping pit, the resulting scratches and gouges may cause even more troubles than the scabs or scale or even skull. Well, anyway, one day Harry Jenkins picked up a can of beer and found that it was sticky. Furthermore, it was flat. Furthermore, it had leaked. Naturally, Harry called the corner store, and the corner store called the brewery, and the brewery called the can company. Turned out to be pinholes caused by, well, who knows? Not scabs in this case, must have been scale or scuffing. The sad part is that was a perfect heat when they poured it, but the can maker wasn't interested in the history. All he saw was pinholes. We can't have that, he said as he reached for the phone. On another occasion, they were on a tonnage section over at the mill, and the boys were trying to make the molds they had on the buggies stretch clear around the cycle. And it didn't help much that the sprays were kind of clogged. All in all, those molds were just too daggone hot. To make it worse, the steel in old 14 was also too hot when they tapped it. In those hot molds, that hot steel simply didn't rim well. Blowholes. The conditioning yard did what it could to skin off that alligator hide and get below the brakes. The steel looked all right when the customer got it, and he was sure the Little Dandy knew its business, so he put it on his presses. But the slivers caused by that poor rimming action opened up. There was the devil to pay around the Little Dandy when that steel came back, with the customer's compliments. Then, on another occasion, the customer was waiting eagerly for some alloy steel to make oil well drill rods out of. Tricky stuff. Had to be just so, and he needed it pretty bad. The way it was being made, they had 500 pounds of maize to the ladle. It was there all right, 2 500-pound piles. The only thing was, it was kind of hard to figure out where one pile left off and another one took up, even if they had been weighed right. Anyway, they took up what might have been 500 pounds, maybe a little more. On the other hand, it might have been a little less. Better put in a little more, said Steve, applying a bit of body English to the heat. Steve had a hunch. As a matter of fact, he should have had his hunch the other way. They had enough manganese in there to... Well, anyway, it didn't matter too much. It was steel, every pound of it. All they had to do was divert it and start over. The customer had to wait a couple of more weeks. Only he didn't like waiting around like that. One day, Big Joe, he that had been so strong and fine, broke into a sweat over a little load he used to pick up with one hand. Pipe has a habit of showing up when it's least wanted, but there's always a reason for it, maybe 2 or 3. The reason this time was that a furnace full of perfectly good steel got over-deoxidized in the ladle through a small oversight amounting to several too many bags of aluminum. Of course, they also tossed plenty of aluminum into the molds. Well, it would have been easy to see after they cooled a bit that they had overkilled that steel. The top of each ingot would probably be pretty well dished. Of course, the slabs couldn't be cut back too far, or there wouldn't have been enough slab left to make plates for die blocks. Pipe, when it's flattened out, makes laminations, and laminated plates don't make good die blocks. Joe ain't pulling his weight the way he used to, people began to say. He's putting a lot of burden on us. The stock looked round and straight to the roller, but then he might have been looking around himself while he rolled it. It looked round and straight when the customer got it, too. And round and straight was what he'd ordered from the little dandy. But it wasn't round and straight. When I say round, said the customer as he sent it all back, I want it round all the way around. That's the way I want it. We didn't used to get stuff like that from the little dandy. Better take care of that, warned Joe's old lady, or you'll get complications. Complications be hanged, says Joe. Let my innards take care of the germs. I got enough to do taking care of my work. It ain't as easy as it used to be. One day at the ironworks, the heat got sidetracked somehow, and by the time the ingots got to the pits, they were pretty cold. They got the standard treatment for the normal transit time, though nobody seemed to notice that they weren't quite hot enough and uniformly heated. Forging billets they turned out to be. Only that cold rolling they got, when they should have been hot, gave them a bad surface that went pretty deep. Not on our forges, said the customer. Take 'em back. Anybody know a source for good forging billets? It was too bad about Joe. Complications. He used to be a good guy to have around, they all said, but he brought it on himself. When the germ of a wrong idea gets into a company, complications can set in, even in a company as big as the Little Dandy. The business of the Little Dandy Ironworks was to please its customers. That's the business of any company, no matter what product it delivers. Make it right, and it will be right. It pleases customers. But when the people began to feel that their business was making steel, and that was that, the germ of this wrong idea began to divert their attention from the need for quality control. Because the plain fact of the matter is that you don't need quality control to make steel. All you need it for is to please customers. You can make steel by pouring it as hot as the furnace will stand it, or as cold as it'll flow. But you can't please a customer that way. You can deliver ingots too soon or too late and heat them too much or too little, and they will roll into steel. But you can't please a customer that way. You can condition a slab or let it go. You can rough things up and say you're saving time. And you will be saving time, and you will be making steel. But you can't please a customer that way. You can ignore the book and pass along uncertainties and doubts for other people to worry about. You can depend on luck, and someone may turn some of it into steel, maybe even the right steel. But you can't please a customer that way. If you don't please customers and do it profitably, the business will start to slip away, and the jobs in the business too. And those are complications. But the germ and the complications could have been kept out by remembering one simple fact. You don't need quality control to make a profit. All you need it for is to please customers. Hardly any medicine ever tastes good. But when you gotta have it, you gotta take it. And it helps guys like Joe or anybody learn an important lesson. You don't fool around with a germ, even when you're big. Do you, Joe?
Yeah, there's definitely a heavy message there. It's very similar to a couple of other films that we have. It's All Up to You, that was it a Delco film? I think it was AC Delco, which basically says because you're taking vacation and sick days, you're basically causing our factories to close down. So that whole guilting out your workers, I don't know if that works or not. But anyways, thanks again for tuning in. Again, we'd love for you to watch and vote on these 8 songs that are competing against each other, and pick the 4 in these individual heats, and then do that by Sunday, and we'll announce the results. If you like what you saw, please hit the thumbs up button or the like button, or you can also buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/abgeeks. But it's great to see you, and we will be live very soon. So we hope to see you soon. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk soon. Take care.